Hello, everybody. I want to take this opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas. And of course, I was thinking about making a video, and I got some bad comments on my video yesterday about, how this is a bad stock. This is an awful stock. You hate the stock. A lot of people hate MicroStrategy, and it inspired me this video, which is all I want for Christmas is MSTR shorts. I think every single person who dislikes starts by disliking Bitcoin, and then maybe they grow onto it, or maybe they're on their journey to growing onto it, or maybe they will not ever grow onto it. And so that's the way it works. And in fact, if you look at any technology, you still have communities who do not use electricity by choice, by the way, right? You still have Luddites. You still have communities who do not adopt the new thing, who never move on to the new thing, and who believe who believe the kind of the Stone Age, or the age, or the way it was done before was the right way to do it, and that is fine. And so the point of this video is to say that the shorts of MicroStrategy, they are not only appreciated, but they're celebrated. And I welcome them. I think y'all are great. And I was shocked by the number of negative comments I get in video, but shorts are welcome. That's the ethos. And whenever Saylor talks about the shorts, he welcomes them to the trade. Why are the shorts welcome? Why do I say that I want MSTR shorts for Christmas? Well, that's because the shorts are good. The shorts are good. They're good for many reasons. Let's go through it. They're good because bad publicity is still publicity. And if you look at anything in the media, frankly, whoever the media reports on, whatever figure, it's always almost exclusively negative, because we're something like 3 or 4 times more likely to click on anything negative than on anything positive. It's engagement farming. Bad publicity is just the way of the world. That's what people do. They click on the bad stuff. And so the shorts spread negativity. And in doing so, they expose first principles thinkers, people who think for themselves. They expose them to MicroStrategy. And if we go back, if we look at Peter Schiff, one of the staunchest critics of Bitcoin, he actually probably did a lot for Bitcoin, and he probably did a lot converting gold fans, gold bugs into Bitcoin. He probably did a lot for that. Jason from All In Podcast, as popular as he is probably doing a lot promoting MSTR. In a negative way. He's not promoting it. He's saying it's bad. He's saying run away. Every time he criticizes MSTR, the entire community says, well, why don't you have a conversation with Saylor? Invite him on the pod. And he won't do it. Why won't he do it? Right? That's one of the big questions. I would say one of the more famous statements from Bitcoin, which is from Bill Gates, which is, I would short it if I could. If there was an easy way to do it, he would bet against Bitcoin. Well, guess what? That's why MicroStrategy says the shorts are welcome, because now with MicroStrategy, there's a very easy way with the volume to short the Bitcoin. You could not short Bitcoin in a big way back in 2018. Now, sure, today you have some ETFs, you can do a little bit of that, but if you want to short it in a big way, then MicroStrategy is really the way to go. I also want to point out that if you look at the trending title, Ponzi versus MSTR, I see a major ratio. I mean, right, this is 1 to 26 or something like that. I see many more positive posts on MSTR than I see Ponzi posts. And of course, all Saylor wants for Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and I guess some MicroStrategy shorts. This is a Grok generated picture. This is a picture of someone appreciating the MicroStrategy shorts. I don't know if Grok did a good job or not. I like that sweater though. Anyways, let me move on. Having a conversation with Grok about this, I asked Grok to summarize the arguments of Saylor to welcome the shorts. I bet you Saylor wants the shorts for Christmas. What are the arguments? Well, Saylor views the short sellers as a form of market validation. It's a way to test the conviction. It's a way to prove them wrong. It's a costly signal. And it's perhaps a way to prove himself wrong, because he said it himself. He said, I guess if by 2030 it doesn't work out, I will have been wrong. right? So it's a way to put money on the table. So that's a good thing. So thank you to the shorts. It's a way to put money on the table on that bet. I sure have a huge percentage of my net worth on this stock, and I was covering this stock more than 2 years ago. So much of it is at a very low cost basis. It's all about putting your mouth where your word is, if that makes some sense, right? Another thing that shorts do is they add a lot of liquidity. This is the whole volatility is vitality. The shorts add a lot of volatility to the stock. Whenever there's a negative news, the shorts just pile on and take the stock down. That's a good thing in order to sell convertible debt. That's a good thing for example, retirees who own this stock just because they want to write options on it and make money by writing options on it. This is the whole strategy of MSTY. If you follow the Twitter sphere, there's a whole amount of people who own MicroStrategy just because they want to do the options writing on it and just make a premium and don't really care as much as the direction, or they want it to go up, but I guess not as much. They're more interested in the income, right? It's an opportunity for gain in the price of MicroStrategy, because also the short sellers have to cover eventually. They took a short position. If the loss is too big, they have to cover. When they have to cover, they have to buy back the stocks. It adds volatility. It adds explosive move to the upside in the case that Bitcoin price goes up. And of course, Saylor believes the Bitcoin price is going to go up. And lastly, it's an educational opportunity. Whenever someone says, oh, I'm going to short the company, they have to say why, right? And of course, sometimes just words are thrown around. Oh, Ponzi, oh, Saylor bad. Words are thrown around sometimes, but other times you have shorts who set up an argument and put an argument, and then people in the MSTR community have a conversation about these arguments. The problem is that most of the time the arguments boil down to not understanding MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, and not understanding Bitcoin, especially MicroStrategy you can argue, but not understanding Bitcoin. If you're not a believer in Bitcoin, you're obviously not going to touch MicroStrategy. So once again, all I want for Christmas is MSTR shorts. Moving on. It's normal for people to not understand MicroStrategy. People, when they begin with Bitcoin, they start with hating it. You believe a denier, and then maybe you grow onto it at some point. Few people still understand Bitcoin. Fewer people understand MicroStrategy, because to understand MicroStrategy, you have to understand equities and how the system of funding and issuing new stock, issuing debts work, in addition to understanding Bitcoin. So it kind of takes a journey, and if you're just a Bitcoin maxi, sometimes it's even tough to understand it. To understand MicroStrategy, you have to understand both Fiat and Bitcoin. And by what I mean by Fiat, this is my most simple explanation of MicroStrategy, is that it's a black hole, simple, stupid strategy is the way I call it. You have a growth in the money stock. The money stock keeps growing and growing and growing. Half of that money stock roughly is going to stick to things like equities and bonds. The other half is going to stick to real estate and to stuff like food and steak and cheese or whatever. Half of the new money supply is going to stick to equities and bonds. And then in equities and bonds, what do you find? You find MicroStrategy. Why? Because MicroStrategy is nearly a $100 billion company. It's nearly a $100 billion company. And thanks to Jack Bogle, we live in a world of indexing. We live in a world where there is almost some religion in indexing, and religion is fine. I'm not denying there's some religion in Bitcoin too. Every field has some religion, but indexing is one of the biggest religions in investing. And of course, you face that whenever you talk about stock picking. I have a no financial advice, entertainment only channel where I discuss stock picks. I can tell you a lot of people don't understand, and they say, "Oh, you should just buy the index." But the main flaw of the index is that some stocks are bought just because they are the biggest, just because there is the liquidity. In fact, just to be included in the S&P 500 or in the NASDAQ, you have to be a certain size and a certain liquidity. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I argue that a lot of the value of Apple stock, for example, is due to the fact that they're the number one in the index. And so they get their biggest share of the new money via the indices. And Saylor, what does Saylor do? He dilutes to get the new money from these indices. He dilutes it, and then he puts that money into Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is not a business endeavor. And this is key to understanding MicroStrategy. Bitcoin is not a business endeavor. And this is where I had a lot of comments yesterday. So let me just go through a few quick comments here. The announcement yesterday was about authorized shares. It's a technical matter. It's an accounting matter. It means that down the road, they won't have to change that anymore because they will already have. They're not issuing the shares today. They will issue the shares via other ATMs, most likely, which they will announce separately. The stock split. People say, oh, we should have done a stock split. Stock splits have nothing to do with authorized shares. Stock splits are all about the stockholder, and it makes the stocks more accessible to small shareholders. It makes, especially options, it makes options more accessible to small shareholders. That's why a lot of stocks really try to not be above 1,000, because even though you could say, oh, anybody can afford a $1,000 stock, not everybody can afford options on $1,000 stock. So stock split is really a pro-stockholder, a pro-shareholder move. Authorized shares, that's a technical move. But when you have a stock split, MSTR does not issue new shares. They don't get new money. The only moment they get new money is when they do an ATM and they sell new shares in the open market. They mint new shares, and that's when the dilution happens. Dilution happens in exchange for money. You issue the new shares on the market and you get the money in exchange. And both convertible debt and stocks do that, albeit convertible debt, the dilution happens at a later date, right? It happens 5 years from now. If you look at the converts he did, that's 2029. I guess 4 years from now. But at the end of the day, if the debt converts, you're going to have dilution 4 or 5 years down the road. If you do an ATM at the market stock offering, the dilution happens today. And what does Saylor do with that money? What do companies do with the money when they issue new stock, when they sell new paper, new shares of stock? Well, most companies, they take the new money. Oftentimes they just have it sit there. So the stock essentially becomes a fiat derivative. And what do they do with that money? Well, maybe they'll acquire another firm. Maybe they'll invest in their people. They'll invest in their businesses. They'll invest in buildings, new product development, whatever. Sometimes they do share buybacks. Oftentimes, they try to cancel out executive stock grants. That's something that they do. There's plenty of things that companies do when they issue new shares, and that's why the market sometimes is wary about new stock issuances. They get worried because they're like, oh, they're not going to invest the money properly. Well, Saylor, whenever he issues new shares, he turns around and invests the money straight into Bitcoin. And so if holders of MicroStrategy believe in Bitcoin, if they most likely do, most of them, I certainly do, then they see it as a good thing because he got diluted for him to invest in Bitcoin. So people see it as a good thing. And usually, when stocks go up after dilution, which is rare, but usually when that happens, it means that the market thinks the investment or thinks the dilution, the reason for the dilution was a wise reason for that dilution. And sure enough, what happened when and of course they didn't do a dilution yesterday, but there were rumors, chatters, everything about future dilution, which will inevitably happen in the future, but they didn't do it yesterday. This is just an admin point. But when rumors of new dilution came out, what do you see? MicroStrategy went up. MicroStrategy went up 8%. Everything that was lost the day before went back up. That's because this stock is tied to Bitcoin. This stock responds to Bitcoin. The dilution, in my view, is fairly neutral to this stock because they just buy Bitcoin. So the dilution, the more dilution you have, the greater the correlation of MicroStrategy to Bitcoin. That's essentially the way I look at it. And shorting may actually be the right decisions if you are a fiat maximalist, if you believe in fiat. If you think the money stock, the M2 money stock, will be reduced going forward, if you think we're going to have way less M2 money stock, if you think the debts, the stocks of debts issued by commercial banks, we're going to start paying them off. Households are going to stop refinancing forever. Cities are going to stop issuing new bonds forever. Countries are going to cut down their deficits and start paying up the debt. So countries are going to start earning surplus and use that surplus to pay off their debt. And if you think all 7,000 companies in the US that are publicly traded, if you think they're all going to stop rolling over the debt, starting paying it off, we will see a decrease in the money stock, a decrease in the money supply, which means that the fiat, the dollar, may be worth more in the future than it is today. And so if you're a fiat maximalist, if you think the dollar is going to be worth more in the future than it is today, because by some miracle, all countries of the world will start to become savvy with how they manage the money, and how companies and how households, if you think that's going to happen, then I think it would be a rational decision to short the stock. But I definitely don't think that's going to happen. And, you see the chatter on Bitcoin, oh, M2 is down, oh, M2 is down. Well, actually, people, and this is my battle on this channel to talk about M2. M2 is not the right metric. You got to look at all of the M2s of the entire world. There's so many dollars issued outside of a dollar system, and then you have all sorts of other currencies being issued everywhere. So if you look at China, okay, look at China, look at Canada, look at how much M2 growth you've had compared to the US. The US is the good student out in the bunch. The US is the good student. Euro somewhat of a good student too. Anyways, Japan somewhat of a good student too. But it's crazy because they're not good students, because the money supply is going through the roof everywhere. So new money stock means the value of a dollar is going to go down, which means that the dollar is going to be less tomorrow than it is today. So it makes sense, in my view, no financial advice, it makes sense to take the money today, turn it into Bitcoin today, because Bitcoin is a capped asset. There's never going to be more than 21 million of them. It's engraved into the code, and the code is protected by 5% of all of the energy in the world via a little something called mining. So this is why this channel is called Bit the Denominator, by the way. I call it Bit the Denominator for that reason. And let me briefly race to the conclusion right here. So looking back at short sellers, if you look back at critics, naysayers, historically, are they a good thing? Well, think about Tesla, right? That's the most recent story of a heavily hated stock, a hated assets, right? So every single analyst for more than 10 years, competition's coming, the big guys are going to kill Tesla, and then Tesla killers. Then maybe we had 5 years of news articles raving about the new EV from XYZ company, the new 2024 Ford Mach-E, whatever. And then we've had the S&P 500 denying credit rating, denying inclusion in S&P based on they have too few models and all sorts of other reasons like that. That's likely, by the way, going to happen to Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy too. When they go up for the S&P 500, because the S&P 500 is a committee-based decision, unlike the QQQ, which is just mechanical based on market cap and other metrics. So short sellers were actually good to Tesla, but what that meant is that the asset did nothing for a bunch of years. You would hold the asset for 3 years, 4 years, it would do nothing. You would have to have a strong mind to not be depressed, and then all of a sudden Tesla does a 7x. Or 6x. So this is what we had in MicroStrategy. We could have a MicroStrategy not go anywhere for I don't know. Could it be a year? Could it be 6 months? If Bitcoin doesn't move too much, MicroStrategy could just be range bound for a very long time. That's what shorts do, but then once it breaks out, it breaks to the upside. Think about what the good that the naysayers did to Apple back in the day. You may remember these commercials that were all around the internet. This is a BlackBerry meant to represent a old phone, and it's shooting through the Apple. Nobody's gonna buy the iPhone because the BlackBerry is powerful. The iPhone has no keyboard. It's not secure. Remember, back in the day, we're all about BlackBerry Messenger, and you needed to have it. iPhone's too expensive. It's not for professionals. So, the president of the United States was using two BlackBerries. There was no way they were going to switch to Apple. If you look at Amazon back in the day, same, tons of criticism on Amazon. I could have put Netflix. Netflix was the same thing. Tons of criticism on Netflix. And if you go back even to the earliest history, I think one of the better movies out there is Edison versus Tesla in the current wars, and they explain to you the story about kind of naysaying your competition, AC current, right, by Westinghouse. Edison went on a quest to have every single American think AC is really, really bad, and that was the invention of the electric chair and all that sort of stuff. So naysayers, people who hate an asset, they actually end up having the opposite effect, in my view, which is they hate the asset, hence the title of the video. All I want for Christmas is MicroStrategy shorts. Thank you, because you being loud means that the asset is going to be discussed. It's going to be discussed. So, in conclusion, volatility is vitality. Being the most talked asset, perhaps the most hated asset, also mean that you're going to be on everybody's radar. And if you look at the performance of MicroStrategy over the past 5 years, I'm going to round it up to 5 years, 4.98 years. Past 5 years was 90.5%, despite the big drop we've had that everybody mentions on Twitter. Oh, the stock went from 540 to 370. Despite that, we're still up 90%. Average annual return for almost 5 years. Tesla is 74%. Both assets are heavily hated. Don't forget that MicroStrategy, just like Tesla, Tesla has been like that for a while now. Cult stocks is what some people call them. I guess I could call them a trophy stock. Michael Saylor is becoming a celebrity, just like Elon Musk is becoming a celebrity. That adds a premium to the stock. You have a celebrity manager at the head, at the head of a company. And lastly, volatility is vitality. If you want any indication of that, look at MSTR. Look at the distribution rate on options writing. I don't do any of these types of instruments. I don't believe in them because it caps the upside. That's just me. Many people who are drawn to MicroStrategy, and by the way, Tesla too. There's a Tesla high yield options ETF like that as well. You have a lot of income people who are there just because they want to earn an income, who are attracted by these assets like MicroStrategy, like Tesla, because they're so volatile, and you can write options and make options of them. So you expand your shareholder base thanks to the shorts. Thanks to the shorts, you have more shareholders who are going to buy the stock because they want it to oscillate. They want it to go up and down. They want it to have vitality. This is the way I had described it in a prior video. Up, down, up, down, up, down makes the stock more valuable, kind of like when a train goes faster. Europe right now, if you want to take a high-speed train, it's much more expensive than to take a slow-speed train because people like things that go fast, things that are volatile. And anyways, that's all I have to say. So love the shorts, love the longs. Everybody's welcome to Bitcoin. Everybody's welcome to MicroStrategy. This was no financial advice, no investment advice, just entertainment on this channel. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful Christmas and have a wonderful day.